everybody.
Hey guys.
Welcome back to the channel. I know once again it's been a while. Life's been busy. So work's been busy, life's been busy, so we haven't really been able to do much. And it was hot. Summer was super hot, so it's starting to cool down a little. We're in September now, so the weather's slowly getting bearable. I mean, it's still in the low 80s, but there's a breeze and it's nice. But yeah, today our vibe has brought us to Animal Kingdom. We haven't been to Disney in a really long time, and I don't think we brought you guys along for a while. So yeah, we're gonna go in there to get some treats. I think we want to try to get it on the safari today and just have an Animal Kingdom day.
Trying to look for some of the baby animals too.
Yeah, and then they also have the magnet distribution here today, so we're gonna try to get our magnets as well. But yeah, come along. Alright guys, so I actually picked up, I never pick up one of these, like one of the, I don't even know what they're called, I just call them maps, like the park map. But yeah, I had to pick one up because this one still kind of has Dino Land on it, but you can kind of see it's all covered up in grass now because it's going away. And so like the whole game area and like Primeval World, all that's gone now. So the only thing that's left is over here, which is Dinosaur and Dinobites. But yeah, I picked this up because that would be kind of neat to have this with Dino Land still on there. We've got tamarind. Alright, so our first stop's going to be in Africa. We're going to skip Pandora today because yeah, I'm just gonna skip it today. One of the things that I really enjoy about Animal Kingdom's the scenery. This is like a really nice shot, but it's so pretty, like the actual park. Alright, so the first thing we got was the street corn. So this is actually at the Harambe fruit stand. Harambe Market fruit stand. I know at one point they moved it into the Harambe Market, but it's not there anymore. It's actually at the Harambe fruit stand. But yeah, gonna snack on some corn. That's what it kind of looks like. It looks pretty good. Haven't had it yet, but it looks good.
It smells very strong of spices. I'm trying to figure out what spices.
I think it's turmeric. It looks like it looks turmeric.
Maybe cumin.
Yeah, but we're gonna give it a try. Alright, so I'm gonna try the corn. Mine's a little more watery than Faz's was, so like it's a little, but it looks good. So we're gonna give it a try. I haven't tried it yet, so first for try. It's different. Like the corn is kind of sweet, but it's kind of mashed by the sauce that's on there. It does taste like curry-ish, like if you like curry flavor. So it's like curried corn if you want to talk about, like if you want to like relate it to something. I like it, but like it's not my favorite. Like I've had better corn. Like I'd rather have like Mexican street corn, like a lotes or something. Like I prefer that. Like I think I like that better. Maybe this will grow on me, because I do like the sauce a little bit, but like the corn isn't as sweet as I was hoping it would be. But hey, it's corn. I like corn. It's hard to eat, but like I don't know if the camera's picking up to see all that. So it does lend to be a little salty, but it's not bad. I don't know if I'd get it again. Maybe like try it again later, but I don't know. So here's Zuri Sweets Market. I guess it's Zuri Sweet Shop. And so you can kind of see right there. I don't know if y'all can see, but down there is Rafiki's Planet Watch. So you get there for the train. And then around the corner here, right around the corner here, where you see those little huts, the little roofs. Let me zoom in. The little roofs right there. That's where the Harambe Fruit Market. So that's where your corn is. And then in here is Zuri Sweet Shop. I think there's other entrances around, but this is the one we found. So current wait time for Kilimanjaro Safari is 50 minutes. So luckily we have a lightning lane. I do not want to wait in a 50-minute lane. So we're going this way. Here is our Uber. So like always with any annual pass distribution, make sure you have your pass and you need to have your photo ID. The pass can be on your phone or it can be like a wallet, but you need to have an annual pass of course, and then like your photo ID. And at Animal Kingdom for this one, they're actually doing it at Nice Discovery Trading Company. It's just right in there. And that's where you'll get your magnet for this time for Animal Kingdom. Alright, so the sun came out, so we're gonna call it a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got hot. It's in the like low 80s, 85 I think it was what the weather app said, but like the sun is just brutal right now. So we did get to do the Kilimanjaro Safari. That was fun. We did get the lightning lane for it. Even with the lightning lane, we still waited like I think of 10 minutes. So just heads up, it was really busy. Like when the lightning lane's backed up, you know it's kind of busy. But yeah, so we did get to go see some animals. All the animals were trying to be in the shade too. They were hot too. You see all the elephants, they're just like congregated in the back under a tree, just like facing away. There's like, nah, not today. We're calling out sick today. But yeah, so it was enjoyable still. We got to see the animals. The animals are always interesting. And then we picked up our magnet. This is the magnet that they have now. Right now it's Crush. So this is what the magnet looks like if you guys are interested in it. And it's right after you cross the bridge on the right. That's where the distribution is happening. But yeah, so now I think we're gonna go get something to eat.
Yeah.
Because all we've had is the snacks we had earlier. All right, everybody. So we're actually back home. I know we said, I think we left off at leaving Animal Kingdom. We said we're gonna go to a wonderful noodle place. It's called Wonderful Handful Noodle. It's off of Turkey Lake. It's around SeaWorld in that area. But it was too hot and we didn't really want soup, so we just ended up grabbing a quick lunch at Chewy's instead. Came home and just cooled off. So today's the next day, another day. We're gonna continue the vlog. I think just because I think it was a little short. But yeah, so today I'm gonna actually start working on my sourdough. I kind of want to make some sourdough this weekend. And so the first thing I need to do is check if my starter is still alive. I think it is, but we're gonna make sure it's still alive. And I'll show you the process on how to do that. All right, so this is what we're looking at. This is my starter from a while ago. You can kind of see it's got, I think it's called Hooch, but it's essentially discard from the yeast. So the yeast eats, and like anything else, it has waste, and the waste is this Hooch. This stuff's supposed to be, it's essentially fermented stuff, and it could be alcoholic. So you could mix it in, but I don't want to. So I'm gonna discard this, I'm gonna throw it out, and then I'll show you what we do next. Alright, so now I've discarded the top. There's still a little left on the top. You can kind of see. It's not harmful or anything. When you actually smell it. So if you smell it, it shouldn't have any off-putting smell. It really just smells like, it smells like starter, really. Like yeasty. If you like go into a bread shop, you kind of smell that, that yeast scent in the area. That's like a little sweet, a little tingy, a little tangy. That's what it smells like. It's still cream colored, so it's still good. It's not, hasn't gone bad. So you want to watch out if it starts turning pink. That's when you want to start discarding it. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take a 1:1:1 ratio of my old starter with flour and water. So the flour feeds it, and then the water lets it kind of mix in. And so I need to measure that out. And like always, I have my trusty scale, so I can do things as precise as possible. And this one, you don't really need to be precise because, you know, you're just feeding yeast. As long as it looks 1:1:1, it's okay. All right, so before I start pouring some of this out, I'm gonna actually mix whatever's on top end. Let's mix it all together, just so it's one homogeneous mixture. Like I said, you can mix in the hooch; it won't hurt anything. I just like minimum as possible. So let's mix this up. All right, so I'm gonna start measuring out my starter. And so the first thing you have to do is tear or zero out the scale. So let's zero it out. And now I'm gonna pour in, or as neatly as I can. I always make a mess when I'm baking or start doing anything. But as neatly as I can, I'm gonna pour out 120 grams of the starter into my new jar here. All right, so there I got my 120 grams of my starter on there. As you see, it does make a mess, but hey, who's not making a mess when they're baking? So now I'm gonna take out 50 grams of my all-purpose flour. This is just feeding, so I mean, a good flour is good, but you don't need like the best of the best. Or this is just food for the yeast. Alright, so I poured in, it's a little over 60, but I think that's okay, it's a little over. But, so I'm at 62 grams of flour, and then I'm going to measure out 60 milliliters of water. Sorry, I think I said 50 grams at one point of the flour. It's 60, sorry. And then, I know I've been saying 50 milliliters of water, but we're actually going to be doing the same thing, like 60 grams of water. And this can be room temperature water for now. Room temperature is fine. Just make sure it's not too hot because too much heat can kill the yeast. So we're gonna pour in. All right. Turn the scale on. All right, finally got it working. I think the battery's starting to run out, so I might need to replace the battery. But yeah, here we go. We are at zeroed out scale, and we're gonna pour in 60 grams of water. See if I can do this one-handed. Alright, there's our 62. Alright, 62 grams of flour, 62 grams of water, and 120 grams of flour of starter. I think we're good. So now it's time to mix this up. Mix it up really well, and then I'll show you how it looks after I mix it up. All right, so that's kind of what it looks like after I mixed it up. You can kind of see in there, it's a thick, like pancake batter consistency. Not sure if it's not, but yeah, it's a little thick pancake batter consistency. You can kind of like see it stays on the spoon. One thing I will say when you're mixing, just so it's easier, like make sure you clean the sides out while you're mixing it, so that way you can actually see a good line outside. because what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark this. I actually have little like rubber band strips that I use, and I'm gonna place this over it and mark where the starting line is, and we're gonna let this sit for 12 to 24 hours and see if it rises. So if it starts rising and it starts bubbling, that means the yeast is that active, and it's feeding. And then we're gonna repeat this process again, I think 2 more times, until we get a really nice starter for when I go and make my sourdough. So yeah, that's why I started earlier in the week. I'll show you what it looks like at the end once I get it wrapped up and ready to the yeast is gonna have a little feeding party. All right, so here we have it. I got my rubber band on. If you don't have like a band like this, you can just use a normal rubber band, and you can definitely use just a normal jar. I got this specifically for making sourdough and housing my starter. As you can see, I have 2 of them. One had the old starter. This is the new starter. That way, I just transfer one jar to another. So the last thing I need to do is put on the lid. And so for the lid, we're not going to tighten all the way. It's just going to be maybe like a 1 turn, and that's it. You don't want it to be airtight because you need the air to help feed the yeast, and you need it, the reaction with when the yeast eats the flour, it creates carbon dioxide, and you need that carbon dioxide to kind of come out. So yeah, so we're just going to put this on the counter, leave it somewhere nice, warm, safe, where cats can't get to it, and just let it take its time, and hopefully tomorrow we'll have some yeast that's blooming. And there it is. We'll just let it sit there. All right, everybody. So I think it's been a few weeks now since we last left off. I know the last thing we saw was the sourdough starter. That sourdough starter was dead. It was there for a while. So it wasn't active or anything. So like I put it out, it wasn't rising. So I had to start a whole new starter. So I did start that new starter. I started feeding it, and now it's starting to like actually be active. If you want to know how to start a starter, let me know, and I'll make a more detailed video on how I did it. But just to save time on this video, I'm not going to include it. But so now, I have my starter. It's pretty active. Let me see if I can show it to you. There's my starter. You can kind of see. Let's put it over here. You kind of see it's like bubbling in there. Yeah, you see the bubbles. It smells yeasty. It smells like a bakery, like a bread shop. But yeah, so I'm gonna be using this to make my sourdough. And so let's get started on the sourdough. I'm gonna have to measure this out. I am using a recipe that I've written down from the last time I did it. So here's kind of the measurements. We're going to use 100 grams of wheat flour, 600 grams of bread flour, 560 grams of water. This gives you an 80% hydration of the flour. Then I'm going to go with 180 grams of starter. So I'm going to see how, hopefully I can get enough of that. And then some salt. And this recipe is for 2 loaves of bread. And so we're going to start with our first step, the autolyse. So I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so I got Faz to help me film because it's going to be really hard to film by myself. So the first thing I did is bring out my scale, because measuring by weight is the most accurate way of actually doing anything. So I'm bowl out, and then we're going to tear that so it's at 0. I'm going to be doing 2 batches. The idea is to get 4 loaves at the end of this. So I'm going to do 2 batches just because it's going to be easier to handle 2 batches of bread and dough instead of one massive one. Alright, so that's still, tear that again. It's like, alright, so the first thing I'm going to measure out is 100 grams of wheat flour. So just, I'm going to start measuring that out, 100 grams. You don't have to be super precise, but I mean, it's nice to be as accurate as possible. So it's at 103, 102. Let's take out more. So what I'm doing now is, it's called autolyse. And so what this does is it gives the dough kind of a head start. So we're gonna mix the water and the flour together, and we're gonna let it sit overnight. You can do it anywhere from 10 minutes to overnight. My last time I did it, I started this at 8 a.m. and then I autolysed it from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So that's what, like almost less than, what is that, 12 minus 3, so that was like 9 hours. Let's say 8-9 hours. But for this, I'm gonna do it overnight. All right, so then the other measurement I need to do is 600 grams of bread flour. All right, so measured out 600 grams of bread flour and the 100 grams of wheat flour, so this is total 600 grams of flour. So I know we kind of cut because I actually took out the all-purpose flour instead of the bread flour. Just so you know the difference. You could do it with all regular all-purpose flour. The only difference is that the bread flour has a higher protein content. So when you start, mixing it, the gluten structure is actually developed better with the bread flour because of high protein content. But if you have a really good quality all-purpose flour, you can use that too. But I had bread flour, so I'm gonna use the bread flour. So I moved it back into this bowl. The other thing I'm gonna need to add is 560 grams of water. So let's go measure that out now. Okay. All right, so I just poured in the water. So that was 560 grams of water, 600 grams of bread flour. Forgot to mention 100 grams of wheat flour. So the first flour that I put on was wheat. I don't know if I mentioned that. But yeah, so we're gonna mix it. You can do it by hand. If you do it by hand, I would suggest getting them wet so your hand doesn't stick as much. But the other thing you can use is a Danish whisk. And I don't know, this helps bring the flour together. So what we're looking for is a shaggy dough, nothing crazy. We're just hydrating the flour overnight so that it gives it a head start. But we're gonna mix it with the Danish whisk. So I don't know if you want to watch me do it, but you can bring it in if you want to see it. So so slowly. So you mix it and start. So you can kind of see that they're getting little clumps of flour. It's kind of dry. It's very shaggy. This is kind of what you want when you're doing it. Just try to get the flour off the side. Try to get flour underneath. So this is looking kind of like what you want. You see it's not very rough. So that looks good to me for the autolyse. So this is just autolysing, right? So when we actually come back tomorrow, we're gonna make this into a proper dough. But right now, this looks good to me. You can kind of see that not everything's hydrated, but it's okay. So let's take this off the whisk. You can see it's sticking, but that's because I don't have wet hands. All right, that's good. But yeah, so you can kind of see how they look. And so the last thing we're gonna do is just cover these with a damp towel. And so you just get any towel, kitchen towel you have, and you just cover it overnight. And so we weren't trying to form any gluten right now. We're not trying to form a proper dough. It's just hydrating the flour, letting it sit overnight, and just getting a head start to the sourdough, and getting the head start with bringing the dough together. So I'm gonna cover the second one as well, and then I'll be back and I'll show you how to measure out the starter that we will need for the two doughs. All right, so last thing we did, we covered the autolyse dough with the damp towel, and now we're gonna get the yeast, the starter, ready so that way tomorrow it's ready to be used. So the recipe calls for 180 grams of starter. So that's in total. So at the end, you want, it says anywhere 120 to 180 grams. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take 60 grams of my original starter, and then I'm gonna take 60 grams of water, and then 60 grams of flour. And now what I've been doing is I've been doing 50-50 rye flour with regular all-purpose flour. So it'll be so at the end of the day, at all the measurements, it's gonna be 60 grams of my starter, and then 60 grams of water, and then 30 grams of the rye flour and 30 grams of the all-purpose flour, and that all together is 180 grams. Now, one thing you need to know. So I'm gonna have to do this twice because because I have the two doughs. So I'm gonna do it in two separate jars just to keep me straight. I did the math. In order for me to have enough starter at the end of this, I would need like somewhere around 600 grams of starter, or I think it was 600, something like that. It was just way more than what I have. So that's why at the end of this, I'm gonna end up with no starter left over. I'll just start another starter at the end of it, but like I said, like there's not enough in here to cover for me to have, you know, 4 loaves of doughs, and then have enough starter to keep feeding. So all right, so here's what we have at the end of all this tonight. So we have the 2 autolyse doughs, so you can kind of see what it looks like in there. It's shaggy doughs. And then I have my 2 jars of my starter. You can kind of see what it looks like after I mixed the 60 grams of starter, 60 grams of water, and then 30-30 rye and all-purpose flour. I think I was good because I had a little bit left over, and I maybe could have used that to continue the starter, but we'll see what we have at the end of our little sourdough journey. Oh, and one thing before I leave, sorry. When you are trying to get your yeast to be active and you're feeding it, one thing you don't want to do is tighten the jar all the way. Just like loosely covered so things don't get in, but you want to have the ability for gas that's created, like the carbon dioxide that's created by the yeast, you want that to be able to go somewhere, and you want it to be able to come out of the jar. If you don't, if you tighten it all the way, what can happen is the pressure can build up inside with all the CO2 gas being released, and you'll either kill the yeast or your container can pop. So just pro tip, don't close your lid all the way. All right, so we're back overnight. So you can kind of see what our starter looks like. It's blooming in there. I did measure it. It's 175 grams in there. So that's perfect for what we're doing. So this is what kind of looks like the next day. I'm gonna just show what it's blurry. Oh, come on. Focus, there we go. So you can kind of see it's bubbling. It's like arched up a little bit. You see the little strands in there. So I think this is good to use. One thing you can do if you're not sure if it's ready to use, you can take a little bit of it and float it and throw it in some water and see if it floats. And if it floats, that means it's ready to, and it's active and it's good to use. And then we got our autolyse dough. Looking shaggy in there, but that's exactly what we want. So I'm gonna start the process of getting some bread made. All right, so we're gonna start mixing in our starter into our dough. So this is kind of what the autolyse looks like. So we're gonna mix in. I'm just gonna throw in all this because, like I said, it's pretty close to the right amount. So we're gonna dump all that in. And like I said, I'm not gonna have any of this left over at the end of this. I'll just start a new batch. I think, or maybe I'll try to save a bit with the other loaf. But trying to get all of it out so we don't waste any. All right, I think that's good. All right, so then we just throw that in there. Then 14 grams of salt. So I'm just using regular like fine sea salt. I would try to stay away from kosher or like large grain salt because it's going to have a hard time dissolving into the flour. But here we just throw 14 grams of salt in there. And we're going to start bringing this dough together. At first it's not going to be, it's going to be kind of loose. It's going to be not really formed well. But I'm going to use my Danish whisk. Eventually I'll probably move over to my hand, but I'm going to use this to start with. Just because makes it mixing a little bit easier. Try to scrape the bowls down so I don't. So we just want to mix this in. You know, I'm gonna switch to my hands because I like to kind of feel it. So we're just gonna pop that there. So if you're gonna use your hands, I recommend just getting them wet. Moist hands, wet hands are gonna make this stick less. So we're just gonna just kind of do this motion like you squeeze and just kind of trying to like kind of mix that starter into the dough with the salt, and you want to get nice distribution of it. Try to get so just trying to pre-form it a little bit, but the main shaking is going to happen later. Some dry dough here, so I'm going to try to get that incorporated. So we're just going to kind of do this for a little bit, maybe a minute or two. And then we're not developing any gluten yet. We're not doing any. We're just mixing in the salt and the starter in there. So I think that's good. All right. So now what we're gonna do is, since we've got it kind of mixed in, we're gonna cover it back with a damp towel, and we're gonna let it sit for 10 minutes, for another 10 minutes. So pretty much by the time I'm done mixing the other batch, we'll be ready to come back to this one. Alright, so now we've had the dough kind of rest for 10 minutes after combining in the starter and the salt. And now we're going to start actually building the gluten structure inside of the sourdough. And so this is what's going to build your bread and make sure like it comes out with a good like crumb and whatever. So there's a few ways to do it. There's a slap and fold method, but I'm going to do a pull and fold method. Last time I did the slap and fold, but I want to keep everything in the bowl, so we're just going to do the pull and fold, or stretch and fold. So once again, you're going to want to get some damp hands because the dough is still sticky right now. Eventually, after we get the structure in, it's not going to be as sticky, so then you won't need as much water on your hands. But for the first few, we're going to do this. So what you do is you take just grab from this hearth and you take and you pull it up and you fold it in. And then you turn the bowl, do it again. You see how it's tearing? You don't want it to tear. So by the time we're done with this, we're gonna have dough that's not gonna tear. You keep doing that, turn it again. And you wanna do it a few times, right? So, and then another one. And then another one. Maybe one more. Sorry, I wanted to get some flour to flour my surface here. So I'm going to roll it out, take it out of the bowl. do one more stretch and fold for. Alright, so we're gonna do one more of these. Just keep moving. I'm just shaping this last shape here. So like, we're just shaping it. We're not really putting too much pressure, just shaping it a little into a little. Ball. And then I'm gonna just take it. Actually, before I do that, so it doesn't stick. So we're just gonna drizzle some oil in the bowl and just kind of like oil the sides, just so when it proofs, it doesn't stick to the bowl. And we're gonna just pick it up and pop it in. All right, so we're gonna do that for the second dough as well. Once again, we're just gonna cover this towel. And now, so this is called a bulk rise. So now we're gonna wait for this to double in size. And that can take anywhere between 2 to 4 hours. I'm gonna check in 3 hours to see where it's at. But what we're looking for is the dough to kind of, this is where it's the yeast is gonna start fermenting and creating the rise in the dough. So I'm gonna do that with the other one as well. And then we'll be back when it's done rising, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so I waited almost 4 hours letting these bulk rise. So you can kind of see now what we're looking at. You see it's kind of like bubbling on the top. It's kind of, what's the word? Not concave, but convex at the top. It's got a little lip. So this is looking good. I can't tell if it doubled, but I know it did increase in size. So what we're gonna do is we're not gonna use any flour yet. We're not putting flour down here. What we're gonna do is get it out of the bowl and do a pre-shaping. So we're gonna start shaping it to start getting it ready to get into our, to start getting into the shape of an actual loaf of bread. So let's get it out. Look at all that gluten structure right there. All right, so this is gonna make 2 loaves, right? That's what we started out with. So we're gonna cut this in half. It don't have to be too precise, but like, you know, eyeball it. All right, sorry, came back. It was getting too sticky, so I got my hands wet again. So you can see, like, when your hands wet, it's a lot easier to work with. So we're gonna do this again. This goes in, this goes in, and then we turn it. That, and then we kind of roll it this way, and then we start shaping it into a ball. All right, this is coming out better now. All right, I think that works. So we're gonna scoop it up, put it right there. So I'm gonna do that for I'm gonna do it four more times. Actually, you know what? So for this dough, let's bring it back. So it's a sticky dough. So like if you have a scraper, it's gonna help you kind of like work with it. All right, there we go. Yeah, so I'm not gonna do the little folder thing. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna do the stretch and fold again. Stretch and fold. Right, so we're gonna make a top little ball. And keep going. And then you can kind of see it's starting to turn into a little ball. And then you can start like sticking again. Let me get my... You can kind of use the bench scraper to work it.